Pirates, the true and remarkable adventures of Minerva Sharp and Nancy Kington, female pirates. If our story seems a little extravagant, to have something of the air of a novel, may I assure you that this is no fiction. Our adventures need no added invention. Rather, I find myself forced to leave out certain details in order not to shock. I was brought up in a household of men, my mother having died on the day that I was born. My father had loved her so much, so the story went, that he could not bear life in Bristol without her. I was handed straight over to a wet nurse. My brothers farmed out to relatives, and he had left on the next ship for Jamaica, not returning for more than a year. I had always known William. From my first memory, we had been together. His mother, Mari, had been my wet nurse. I had lived with her until I was 3 or 4, when I was plucked from her care like a puppy from a litter and taken back into my own household. My father came back with Robert, who took over the running of the household. Robert prepared our food, waited on table, showed guests into and out of the house. The only other servant was a boy, Nathan, who looked after the fires and did all the things that Robert didn't do. A woman came in for the washing, otherwise Robert and Nathan did everything. My father saw no reason to pay a house full of women to sit about clacking and gossiping and eating his food, their backsides getting fatter by the day. Robert looked after me well. He fed me, clothed me, made sure I was clean and tidy, especially for church on Sunday. He did not worship with us. We went to St. Mary Redcliffe while he went to the Baptist Church in Broadmead. He went twice every Sunday. The congregation had welcomed him despite his colour. He was a gentle man, and a wise one. Since no one else seemed interested, he taught me to read. We read what we could find. The Bible and prayer book, tracts and sermons that Robert brought back from his church, along with ballads and broadsides he collected in the street outside. As I became proficient, I prowled the house, taking books from my brother's rooms and my father's library. the time I was 7 or 8 years old, I had the run of the house. My brothers were away at school. Each one had his course in life planned from the cradle. Henry, the oldest, was to be a trader like our father. Joseph was to be a planter. Little Ned, the youngest, was destined for a regiment of foot. There were no plans for me because, as Robert had pointed out, I was a girl. I seemed to be there as an afterthought, an addition, sometimes petted, more often bullied, frequently ignored. We lived in a street that ran down to the Welsh Backs, the stones cast from the docks and the sugar house, but my father saw no reason to move from it. He was not a man to welcome change, and he could see the masts of his ships from his bedroom window. He was near to his place of work and the inns and coffee houses where he did business. Why would he want to live anywhere else? He did not spend all of his time in Bristol. At least a part of every year he was in Jamaica, running our plantation. I knew that his trips were important. The plantation was the place the sugar came from, and the sugar paid for everything. But as I grew older, I resented his long absences. When he was away, I would wander into the room he called his library and curl up in his chair. The room was small and dark like the others, and in his absence it grew dusty and smelt of ashes and stale tobacco smoke. It was full of the most wonderful things that he had brought back from his travels or that had been given to him by his captains. Carved effigies, curving lengths of elephant's tusks, plaques of tortoiseshell, a polished coconut set in a silver cup, a giant shell curled like a great pink fist. When he was at home, and the lamps were lit and the fire burning, the library was my favorite place in the world. My father's family had been grocers, but being venturesome in his youth, and enterprising besides that, my father had broken away from that rather dull line of business, and had shipped for the West Indies. I loved to hear tales from that time in his life, and he loved to tell them. I would sit on his knee, with my head against his shoulder, taking comfort from the warmth of him and his heart beating next to mine, while he told me of his life when his associates were buccaneers and he had come to acquire Fountainhead. Fountainhead was the name of our plantation. It had a sign that I thought looked a little like a weeping willow tree, and it was stamped on everything, even carved in the wood above the door to our house.